now form a quorum, we can start.
Yes.
So you are all welcome to comprehensive sexuality education and religion. So we are looking at what faith, beliefs, and religion is saying about CSE, and also try to understand really what is CSE really a faith or religious belief team, or is it there in the how to practice CSE, how to go about around CSE in terms of our faith. And I'm happy to be with you as your moderator. I base in Ghana. I work with Muslim Family Counseling Services, an NGO which promotes sexual and reproductive health. And for the past 32 years, we've been able to educate and inform people about sexuality. And in West African sub-region, we represent Faith to Action Network. So basically, this is more like faith. And I agree, I believe we will have a nice and very straightforward meeting. So I'll give you 1 minute each to introduce yourself. I start with Regina.
Okay, hi everyone, Regina Fuller. I'm a doctoral candidate, and for my dissertation, I studied CSE in Ghana, and how people, there was a big, we'll talk about this later, there was a big debate around CSE, and I come from an education policy background, and I'm really excited to have this conversation today.
Oh, Regina. Then Emmanuel, to balance the gender.
Hello everyone, my name is Emmanuel Gore, and I work as a senior advocacy officer for human rights at the Lutheran World Federation head office based in Geneva. I have my education background is in human rights. I hold a PhD in transitional justice, and I've been doing this for at least with the current organization for the last 8 years, mostly engaging in human rights advocacy through the United Nations human rights mechanisms, which cover an array of themes and countries, including the comprehensive sexuality education and women human rights more broadly.
Thank you very much. Jermaine.
Okay. I'm French speaker. I'm in Cameroon here. I'm named Bahana Germain. I'm monitoring and evaluation at the CAMNA4. I am a PhD candidate in sociology. I have experience in CSE, but I hope that I can learn from any practices where it's making in other countries.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
All right, good. Thank you, Jermaine. With another PhD, she's a candidate though. And then we have Emmanuel as a PhD holder. Regina, you didn't mention, but we know also you will have PhD. So we are all welcome to this most exciting and educative program today. Now, let me start with Emmanuel. Emmanuel, you know, the whole conversation is about religion and comprehensive sexuality education. Based on your abstract submitted, can you give us a short presentation?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think from my experience, and as I mentioned in the introduction, I work for faith-based organization, which is the Lutheran World Federation. My organization is basically a communion of, it's a global communion of 148 churches in the Lutheran tradition, representing over 75 million Christians in 99 countries. We act on behalf of the members of LWF, member churches of LWF in areas of ecumenical and interfaith relations, theology, human rights, ecological justice, humanitarian assistance, communications, and the various aspects of mission and development. For my particular role in the organization, as I mentioned, I'm a senior advocacy officer for human rights. So I basically provide technical support to our member churches and to our country programs to be able to engage in human rights advocacy in their respective countries using the United Nations human rights mechanisms of the UN. The work entails, in particular, engaging with one of the more recent sort of instruments that was adopted by the General Assembly in 2006, which is called the Universal Periodic Review. So the UPR is basically a peer review process that analyzes, scrutinizes the human rights track record of all the 193 member states of the UN. In this process, which, as you can imagine, if all 193 countries are being reviewed, it takes around 4.5 to 5 years to finish one cycle to review all of the countries. The main part of it is really the working group, what they call the working group session, where then the country that is under review will receive recommendations from the remaining countries on where they think the situation can be improved in the country when it comes to human rights. The themes that have emerged in my work with these countries to engage in human rights advocacy, particularly through of course, I also try to ensure that there are other complementary sort of advocacy opportunities that they have to engage in, also using the human rights mechanisms of the United Nations, including the treaty bodies and the special procedures and others. But the main mechanism is really the Universal Periodic Review mechanism, because we think that it is one of the most effective mechanisms. We've been able to document tangible results on the ground based on, some of the priority human rights issues that working with those communities, we've been able to identify and document and report on with concrete recommendations, which are then sort of taken up by the different governments that we meet in Geneva, for advocacy, to advocate for these issues. And then these issues are then kind of accepted by the government of the country under review, which are then sort of like implemented. And we've been able to witness progress in terms of there's a thread that goes through where we identify, for instance, that comprehensive sexuality education is a major priority human rights issue in a particular country, and then we sort of try to consult with the communities, the affected communities, on what are the issues related to this and what they think should the government do in order to address it. And of course, at a later point, I'll come back down to the details on how some of those, how some of the impact related to this. But for now, I think the main thing that I want to just highlight is really to say that we've seen that the UPR is an opportunity, both at the at the national, but also at the regional and the global level, by which you can push for priority human rights issues related to women human rights more broadly, and in particular comprehensive sexuality education. We've done this more recently with the UPR process of Tanzania, and we've been able to, and it was actually quite impactful in terms of we were able to create space for the presiding bishop of our church in Tanzania to deliver a statement on this particular issue, at the international level here in the Human Rights Council, in which he, stressed that they obviously highlight, the way we do it, we highlight progress wherever there is progress, and then we identify where there are sort of like still areas where progress needed to be undertaken. And what that means, that the bishop was able to congratulate the government for example, for the government of Tanzania for the recent decision to allow the re-entry to schools of girls who fall pregnant. This has been a very hot topic, especially with the previous government in Tanzania of Magufuli, who passed away, where pregnant girls were not allowed to go back to school. And so the bishop was stressing that this decision, to revoke that decision, is to put legislative measures in place to ensure pregnant girls are going back to schools is quite encouraging, and it's welcome. And then he further encouraged the government to further consolidate this policy by introducing preventive measures in the education sector to enhance or by enhancing the provision of life skills based sexual and reproductive health education as part of the formal curriculum, but also by providing adolescent-friendly reproductive health and rights services. As you know, and I think this would be the last 2 points I'll make, and then I'll give the floor to you, Mr. Chair. As you know, the church is one of the biggest churches in Tanzania, and it commands quite a significant experience at the national level when it comes to addressing issues related to gender-based violence against children, and ensuring children, boys, girls, and women have access to basic rights such as education and health. So the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania alone runs 15% of the country's health facilities. So basically what the president stressed, then the bishop stressed, was that the government, he encouraged the government of Tanzania to continue working closely based on this sort of acumen and experience, to work very closely with the church and all other national and local stakeholders in implementing the recommendations that were accepted by the government related to this particular issue. And of course, he committed that they are ready to join hands with the government in ensuring that this is being swiftly implemented. And so currently work is under progress on putting together plans for how to follow up on the implementation progress on this particular issue. Let me stop here, and I would be happy to answer more questions should you have.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Yes, indeed, because I can see the two ladies are jotting down some questions for you. I also have some questions coming, but let's reserve that for question time. We go now directly to Regina. You want to talk about what you call a CSE comprehensive satanic engagement, a study of religious resistance in Ghana. And I'm already in Ghana. I've seen what's happened, but I still, Emmanuel and Sister Jermaine would like to learn more, and other people who are watching us want to know more. So we'll give you the floor, 10 minutes to touch on that. Then we'll come back. If you have anything to share in terms of presentation, you are welcome to do that.
Mohammed, it says that you disabled screen sharing. Can you enable screen sharing?
I did. Okay, let me enable.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try again. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Mohammed, can you mute your mic? It's getting a little bit of when you're not talking. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. I was talking about CSE resistance in Ghana. So I think we just heard from Emmanuel, the church, and thinking of religious leaders as a partner. But I think if we think about what happened in Ghana, you can see the flip side of that. So when the church and religious leaders aren't a partner in CSE, but are resisting it. And so the title of my talk is CSE is Comprehensive Satanic Engagement, a study of Christian and religious resistance to CSE in Ghana. And you see on my first slide is a picture of the Daily Graphic, is Ghana's main leading newspaper. And you see then the Minister of Education, Minister Prempeh, and it says controversy, Ghanaians divided over new sexuality education. And so I'll get into this huge controversy that happened in Ghana and hopefully what we can learn from it. So I'm just going to quickly go through the journey to getting to CSE within Ghana. So Ghana was founded, the current country that we know as Ghana was founded in 1957. And around that time, when the country came into existence, there was a type of reproductive health education within schools. We fast forward about 50 years until 2017. The Ministry of Education, the National Population Council, and UNFPA Ghana got together and decided that it was time for Ghana to update its existing reproductive health education curriculum to CSE. So they started this process of trying to bring CSE into the curriculum. A year later, in 2018 to 2019, they had produced guidelines for CSE in Ghana. It's a green book. And so in Ghana, sex education is not a standalone subject. So there's no one class on sex education. It's integrated within social science, religious and moral education, and history. So you can see pieces of sex education all through the curriculum. So from 2018 to 2019, there was this process of updating across these curricular subjects, putting CSE in there. And then September 2019 happens. A group, a pro-family group of Christian and Muslim leaders got together and they accused CSE of teaching lesbian, gay, and trans issues. CSE was on the front of the newspaper every day. Every WhatsApp group I was in was talking about CSE. It was on the news. You couldn't get away from hearing about this CSE and how bad it was for kids. So then October happens. The president of Ghana decided that he had a meeting with Christian leaders and he said, no, okay, we're not gonna have anything inappropriate in schools. And I promise you, we're gonna get the CSE thing away, right? And then a year later, 2021, CSE still remains in limbo. So officially it was removed from schools and NGOs and the ministry, they're trying to figure out what's next. And so for my talk today, I'm looking at this period. So from 2018 up until actually 2 months ago, I was based in Accra, really studying both support for and resistance to CSE. And I just want to show you a picture of how important CSE was to the president. So you'll see Ghana's president, he's being anointed by a Catholic father in October 2019. And beside him is the Minister of Education. And you'll see the minister having the CSE documents in front of him. Great. So I'll get into my research methods and analysis. Sorry. There we go. Great. So what did I do in this study? And again, I'll be very brief. So I did ethnography. And what ethnography is extended engagement in a community for a period of time. So I studied this topic from 2018 to 2021. I did interviews with policymakers, both Christian and Muslim faith leaders and activists. I observed a lot of meetings. So there was one big group, the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values, who's one of the main groups who was fighting against CSE. So I went to all of their meetings. Ghana Education Service, which sits under the Ministry of Education and administers all pre-tertiary education in Ghana. I went to their meetings. And of course, I looked at the CSE documents. And then of course, I did some inductive and deductive coding. So I'll get dive into my findings. And I'm only going to talk about 2 findings today. And again, I wanted to say that not all Christian leaders are against CSE. I interviewed Christian and Muslim leaders. However, today I'm talking about the leaders who were publicly and the most vocally against CSE. So I interviewed Christian councils in Ghana. There's about 3 major ones. There's the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, which is a council of all the Pentecostal and charismatic churches, and they have one chair. I'm blanking on the name of the other one. There's kind of Pentecostal charismatic. I can't think of it right now, but there's another council that has all the Protestant and the Methodist.
I know, Regina, if you can go fast because of the time.
Yes. Yep, I'm going. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so one of the main things is that Christians saw CSE as a way of teaching LGBTQ sexualities. And so I want us to look at the second quote to the right, and it says the church was against CSE because we knew it was not just about teaching children on their sexuality. CSE was trying to sneak in a kind of LGBT ideology, which is alien to our culture. So you see leaders seeing CSE as something that is against Ghanaian culture, and they're saying that it was teaching people, young people, to be lesbian and gay, which it wasn't, but that was the perception of CSE. I wanted to play this clip, but I think it'll play. Another view of religious leaders against CSE was that CSE was a moral threat to the nation. So instead of just thinking about CSE as something that's just within schools, people saw it as the devil, as Satan. And I'll play this a clip of one of the chairmen talking about CSE as being something that is satanic.
The Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, to address and state our official position on the raging debate and controversy on the comprehensive sexuality education, which I have termed comprehensive satanic engagement, because of the impact it can have on our children.
Right. So you see in this statement, people seeing CSE as a threat to children. And I'll go I'll go to some policy implications. I think when we think about CSE in countries, there's this idea that as advocates, that everybody is going to be in support of CSE. And we can see in the case of Ghana that that is not always the case. So I think we really have to start anticipating religious opposition to CSE. At the same time, we can build strong support. I think Emmanuel was talking about in the case of Tanzania, that we can get support from religious leaders for CSE. And then I'll just conclude with the last thing. Must we call it CSE? Leaders in Ghana that I interviewed liked sex education, they just didn't like CSE. So when we think about this, is there a way that we can do CSE or do things that are like CSE without calling it CSE? And then I'll leave my contact information there. Thanks. Mohammed, you're muted.
We jump to our sister Jermaine. Jermaine, you have 5 minutes.
Mohammed, do we need another Zoom link? I can send one because I think we're running out of time.
Yes, yeah, I will do that. But
okay.
Can we conclude with this? Yeah. Jermaine, hello.
Ok, je suis là. J'ai juste le temps de partager mon écran pour ma présentation.
Okay. Go ahead.
Ok, je vais présenter mon organisation qui est la Cameroun National Association for Family Welfare. Depuis près de 33 ans, la Cameroun œuvre auprès des personnes vulnérables. Étant donné qu'au Cameroun, la majeure partie de la population est essentiellement jeune, et vu la précarité dans laquelle, vu la précarité observée chez cette cible, il est question à notre niveau d'accompagner le gouvernement pour pouvoir garantir la santé sexuelle et reproductive des adolescents et jeunes de notre pays. Donc, comme je le disais tantôt, ma présentation va faire un focus sur l'impact de l'éducation sexuelle complète au niveau au sein des établissements scolaires catholiques de notre pays. comme je le disais tantôt dans mon abstract, le concept en lui-même est très peu connu. Très peu connu. On en parle, on parle de la pratique, mais pas nécessairement du concept en lui-même. Du coup, pour nous, il est question véritablement de veiller et de travailler avec les leaders pour que le concept en lui-même soit connu de tous. Voilà, lorsqu'on a parlé de l'opérationnalisation et la prise en compte de l'éducation sexuelle complète dans les programmes, le focus a été beaucoup plus fait sur le VIH, VIH-Sida, les CSE, la prévention des grossesses précoces, la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle. Donc voilà un peu les thèmes qui reviennent lorsqu'on parle de l'éducation sexuelle complète au Cameroun. Et avec des recherches, nous nous sommes rendus compte que les besoins en termes d'éducation sexuelle complète sont énormes, restent encore énormes. C'est d'ailleurs souligné dans la dernière enquête démographique qui a été publiée en 2018 au Cameroun. Donc voilà un peu ce qui est du contexte pays de l'éducation sexuelle complète du Cameroun. Donc, on a eu recours à une petite documentaire pour pouvoir lire, essayer de voir quel est le statut de l'éducation sexuelle complète au Cameroun et voir à quel niveau ou alors à quel degré elle était mise en pratique. Nous avons également recours au focus group de discussion avec les élèves. Et dans notre cas, on a 2 filles et 13 garçons, 10 parents d'élèves, des élèves enrôlés lors des séances DVF et DEVA de décembre 2020 à juin 2021 dans 2 établissements du Cameroun, à Yaoundé et à Ebolova. Nous avons fait des entretiens individuels également avec 2 points focaux. Voilà, il s'agit des enseignants de ces établissements et qui font le suivi des activités qui sont mises en œuvre au quotidien. Et puis, on a également eu un entretien avec un staff du Global Fund Project en Cameroun, histoire d'évaluer en fait les comportements, les changements qui ont été observés après avoir implémenté l'éducation sexuelle complète dans le cadre de notre projet. Et comme résultat, comme on a dit, il y a eu un impact programmatique, c'est qu'on a pu enrôler lors des séances DEVA et DVF 3583 élèves qui ont pris part successivement à 4 séances d'éducation complète à la sexualité, dont 2010 filles et 1973 garçons. Ça, dans le cadre du projet, on travaille avec 11 établissements scolaires et ces établissements sont des établissements confessionnels, parmi lesquels les collèges catholiques. Et dans les 2 établissements que nous avons retenus, notamment le collège Bono, qui est à Ebolova, et le collège Saint-Benoît de Yaoundé, on a pu enrôler 379 filles contre 308 garçons. Donc, voilà un peu l'impact que nous avons eu au niveau programmatique. Et l'impact sur les comportements, puisqu'il s'agit d'évaluer l'impact de ces séances d'éducation complète à la sexualité sur les adolescents et jeunes, en l'occurrence des...
Okay, so we continue, but we still don't have our sister joining yet. So maybe I have to prompt her. But also we can continue, the 3 of us, until she joined. I don't know whether she will get the invitation or what. But let's see. Regina, you are talking about the Ghanaian context. I noticed I'm in Ghana, I've seen what went through. So is there any success stories that you can share with us?
Oh, hard question. Good question. I think I think the beginning from I would say 2017 to 2018 was a success story when Christian and Muslim and traditional leaders were in favor of CSE. I think now NGOs and organizations in the ministry, they're trying to work to rebuild that trust. So I don't think it's a complete success story yet, but I don't think there's hope. It's hopeless. I'm talked to, there are organizations that are faith-based that are in support of CSC. So I think it's our job to see if we can get them to talk to others to get more people in support of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Is it tough to talk to religious leaders in Ghana about CSC? How tough it is?
Right. Yes and no. I would say for the most part, once I explained what the research was on, and because people had such strong opinions about CSC, they really wanted to tell me what they thought. So I think people got over they were really happy to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Emmanuel, is there any success stories you want to share with us?
I mean, I already noted the example from Tanzania as one that could be, seen as a success in a sense. But I think there are several dimensions to this, which also relates to what Regina said at some point in her presentation about, promoting sexuality education, comprehensive sexuality education, without necessarily using the term, because the term may be seen to be controversial by some people. And I do agree with that sentiment, because I think that we've had a similar situation also again on the situation in Tanzania, where during our advocacy meetings, to advocate for these issues with different diplomatic missions in Geneva, but also then with the, at the national level with the government of Tanzania, their concern was, was about some of the terminologies, and this was also reflected quite strongly in the recommendations that they have accepted on this particular issue during the UPR process. And so there are recommendations essentially talking about the same thing, comprehensive sexuality education, but the ones that are directly saying comprehensive sexuality education, for example, they note it, it's just noted but not accepted. But then the ones that are talking about, about comprehensive sexuality education, but without necessarily saying it in that, in those terminology, are accepted. And so some of our colleagues have asked what is the reasoning behind, accepting some recommendations related to these issues but not others. And that was the one of the government, the Ministry of Education, noted was that it's because of the terminology, which they say may sometimes clash with some of the cultural values and practices. But yes, I mean, I think the second point here is that you need to be able to get key actors on board when you want to promote this, promote comprehensive sexuality education. And from my experience, mobilize, I mean, issues are as important as the way you present them. And so the question of methodology is really key and important, because most people are doing human rights advocacy in a confrontative, sort of like manner, naming and shaming and so on. And that doesn't necessarily bode well with most, policymakers and duty bearers, governments, and you need them on board in order to promote this issue. So one way I have been able to overcome this challenge in places like South Sudan, where there is no civic space for human rights, has been, and other places, in fact, a model that mainstreams is really to adopt a constructive engagement sort of approach, which as I noted earlier in the beginning of my remarks, is to identify within the particular issue that is being discussed, what actually is the government doing to try and address this issue. And there are often always, something being done by the government. It's just probably that it hasn't been documented or it's not being recorded. But if you're able to identify that and then use that as the starting point for the conversation, then it opens up doors for the collaboration with the government. And so so constructive, non-confrontational approach and methodology that sort of like basically emphasizes and guarantees to the government that we are seeking for collaboration and working together, and we do not seek to undermine the government by promoting this particular issue. So it's the language and it's how you frame the recommendations that helps get to the right corridors of power. And of course, we are lucky to have member churches that, like in Tanzania, and bishops that are pro sexuality education, comprehensive sexuality education, and so on. So that also helps in terms of raising the profile of the issue at the national level.
Okay, thank you. This question goes to both of you. Have you come across any scripture in the holy books that support or go against CSE in your work, especially in Ghana, and for that matter, you, Emmanuel, have been working for past 8 years. Is there any scripture or religious teachings that you come across in terms of supporting or going against CSE?
Myself, I'm not a theologian, so I'm a secular academic. I only do the human rights work for a faith-based organization. So I would have to consult our theological colleagues to see if there are any, sort of like scriptural basis for this. But for us, it's a question of moral as well as spiritual values, and that in itself is is what the Lutheran identity is all about in terms of gender equality and ecological justice, and that everyone is created in the image of God and should have equal access to basic life with dignity and so on. So so this is the core of the work we do. But if you want specific scriptural sort of quotes, then I may have to come back to you on that later.
Right. I mean, going forward, that will help our cause in discussing the whole issue of CSE with other with faith leaders. Because Regina, you may recall that in Ghana, because there wasn't any consultation before the rolling out of the program, we had a lot of backlashes here and there and other stuff. But I know you've been talking with a lot of faith leaders, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and all others. Have you have a chance to ask them about what Scripture says about CSE?
That's a good question. No, I didn't actually ask for a scripture reference to CSE. So now I'm even thinking about where is it in either in the Quran or the Bible. So it's something it's really something for me to think about. That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very good, because I know Quran chapters 2 to 5 really talks about sexual and reproductive health in general. So one may wonder, if you go around those chapters, you may come across what really is there that you can use to back your case of promoting CSE. Again, it's very important for us to understand the cultural beliefs of people. In terms, CSE in America, educating CSE in America would be totally different from educating our students CSE in Ghana, for example, or in Africa as well, because we hold our cultural beliefs in high esteem. Yes. So one needs to always consult both faith and traditional authority or leaders to be able to understand where to start, where to begin, because it's very important for us to have CSE in our schools, because our children need to learn and know about their sexuality. But the house, how we go about it is what differs from what you can do in London and what you can do in Accra. Do you understand? Yeah. So basically, I asked this question because we also try to do something around CSE when the heat is rolling. As a faith-based organization, using multi-faith approach, we consulted some Christian, Muslim, but we don't have the power to say government, like the government had, to come out to say we are starting CSE. But we have an advisory role to advise government as to how to go about CSE in terms of religion, in terms of culture, in terms of all other things. So basically, we had a very fruitful meeting, but the way forward is to really dig deep into scriptures and cultures to understand what really is preventing some, if you like, religious personalities and cultural leaders to go against CSE. It happens in Ghana. Not only the church leaders, not only the Muslim, the imams, even our cultural leaders, traditional authority. I heard somebody who is a well-known traditional person coming out against it. Do you understand? Because he didn't get the chance to understand how to go about CSE using his own culture. So it's a wake-up call for us to now zero down to these people to understand what really their beliefs are saying regarding comprehensive sexuality. So basically, I don't know whether you have any further comment, the two of you, because we lost our sister due to technology failure. But if you have any final comments, you are welcome to. Regina.
Yes, I think this is a really great conversation. And I'm really glad that we had this as a part of the Global Forum. And I think what I've heard from Emmanuel and just from our conversation is thinking about this tension that we have about faith leaders. They can, on one hand, they can be partners and help move forward this change, or on the other hand, they can stop change, right, and resist it. And I think moving forward, when we think about CSE, how can we make sure that when we're engaging faith-based leaders, traditional leaders, engaging them early enough so that they're supporters and not only just people who oppose CSE. Thanks.
Emmanuel, any final thoughts or comments?
Oh, thank you. This was really enriching just to listen to the research that Regina is doing. Unfortunately, we lost our other panelists, but overall, I think it's a good discussion, and I hope that we'll continue to explore the ways by which we can further enhance and improve the promotion of comprehensive sexuality education. I think the UPR presents a good opportunity to use that simply because of the methodology, which is constructive and which is more peer-to-peer sort of like conversations between states, where civil society have a greater role to play in terms of advocating for priority human rights issues, including CSE, and also working with coalitions. I mean, with other like-minded organizations, because whenever wherever there is a coalition working together, then the stronger sort of the impact and the stance, and it also minimizes some of the risks associated with human rights advocacy in some countries when it comes to the civic space. Yeah, so this was really fruitful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. Thank you very, very much. And we are happy to have this conversation as well. Regina kindly send me the recordings after this meeting. The recording that we have, I have one and you have one. This is a new era of technology. So sometimes it's not easy, but generally it was a very fruitful meeting for me. I learned a lot, even though I'm in Ghana. These videos that you show I watched them flash on the news. I didn't have the chance to grab them, but it's really worth grabbing and use in communities, in our community education. I would like to thank you both, and I really enjoyed having conversation with you. And please, let's keep on talking. We have our emails beyond this video conferencing, beyond even the UNFPA UNESCO program. We need to talk more, and try to harness opportunities that we can work together to push for the agenda. So I think after the meeting, we need to still keep on the momentum going. She's here. Hi.
Okay, so I thank you so much. I have another meeting now, yeah?
Okay.
Right. Bye, Emmanuel.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Regina,
yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Can you just pause for some minutes for her to just give us some brief?
Yeah.
Okay. Jermaine, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please. Sorry for that hitch. So go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah. OK. Donc, je disais que, voilà, grâce au soutien du Global Fund, qui est notre bailleur de fonds, nous avons pu offrir aux établissements scolaires un paquet de services, notamment l'éducation sexuelle et complète, au collège, des collèges catholiques. Donc, on a enregistré des impacts. Comme impact programmatique, nous avons dit tout à l'heure que nous avons enrôlé 3583 élèves au sein de 11 établissements scolaires du Cameroun. Et voilà, au collège Bono, qu'est-ce que Bono va et au collège Saint-Benoît de Yaoundé. À Saint-Benoît, nous avons enrôlé 379 filles et 308 garçons. Au collège Bono, 326 filles et 314 garçons. Et nous avons également des résultats, bien l'impact au niveau du changement des comportements des adolescents et jeunes de ces établissements. En l'occurrence, 60% des adolescents, filles comme garçons, ont une estime de soi qui s'est accrue, parlant de la sexualité en présence de leurs camarades sans gêne. On a également constaté qu'il y a une bonne maîtrise de la thématique de la gestion des gènes menstruels en milieu jeune, notamment sur les jeunes filles. Comme autre impact, on a 40% des élèves qui consommaient occasionnellement l'alcool, une fois enrôlés au cours des va et des avec les conseils enseignants, savent désormais que l'alcool représente un danger pour leur santé et leurs études et sont prêts à progresser avec des comportements positifs vis-à-vis de la consommation des drogues. On a également observé qu'il y a une baisse du nombre de grossesses non désirées au sein des établissements au cours de la période. Mais on a constaté également que pendant notre petite recherche, les élèves sont encore, ils restent exposés au comportement à risque quant à l'utilisation des réseaux sociaux. On fait allusion ici à la pornographie qui reste encore consommée par les adolescents, bien qu'ayant pris part aux différentes séances débat et DVF. Voilà un peu. Il est question qu'à notre niveau, nous puissions mettre un accès là-dessus pour ce qui est des prochaines étapes. 100% des parents interviewés réclament l'extension des cours débat à d'autres établissements, c'est-à-dire des établissements non confessionnels. Ici, je disais tout à l'heure que le Cameroun a, dans son curriculum, intégré des cours c'est-à-dire l'éducation complète sexuelle. Seulement, véritablement, le suivi qui est fait pour la mise en œuvre des autres cours n'est pas le même pour ce qui est de l'éducation sexuelle et complexe. Et il est donc question que pendant le passage à échelle, que dans le cadre de notre projet, que nous puissions étendre l'éducation sexuelle complète aux établissements non confessionnels des dirigeants. Et on a également constaté que les adolescents maîtrisent les moyens de prévention du VIH et les autres IST. Pour les 2 points focaux des 2 établissements dans lesquels les données ont été collectées, au vu du nombre de grossesses indésirées qui ont diminué, la sécurité et la régularité des participants à suivre les cours. Cela témoigne également de l'intérêt que portent les élèves et ça traduit un impact positif pour ce qui est de la psychologie même des adolescents, ce qui est un point positif pour l'amélioration de leur santé sexuelle et reproductive. Également, les autorités scolaires qui déjà ont ouvert les portes à notre projet, voyant en ce dernier une opportunité pour véritablement accentuer l'éducation sexuelle complète au sein de l'établissement, demande, également améliorer ces pratiques en encourageant véritablement, comment on les appelle, les principaux et les enseignants principaux à ménager des espaces horaires pour que des cours soient dispensés régulièrement et voilà qu'il y ait des évaluations après chaque période. Là, c'est la réponse. Oui, merci.
Yeah, can you conclude?
Ok, je vous remercie. Oui, oui. Je suis arrivée au terme de ma présentation et j'espère qu'elle était approchante et je reste ouverte aux différentes questions pour plus de détails. Merci.
All right, thank you. What are the challenges you face as you work? If you have any challenges, and then you also share success stories, then we end up.
Yes, but it's not recorded here. There are many success stories. We have children of 10 years who can share with us the experience in sexual, comment on appelle ça, l'hygiène menstruelle hygiene. There are also parents who are comfortable to share with us the changements, the change that they observe in children in house at the end of our project in the school. Donc, il y a plusieurs exemples, même si véritablement, en termes de vidéos, de reportages, c'est pas collecté ici, mais c'est, comment je peux dire, c'est documenté ici à travers les rubriques impact de l'ECS sur les comportements des élèves des 2 collèges. Il y a également le Conseil national épiscopal qui prend cours, je veux dire, qui assiste souvent aux différentes évaluations du projet. Et voilà, il y a des rapports qui sont documentés où, voilà, ils encouragent véritablement les staffs du projet pour l'action qui est menée. Et en retour également, la Cameroun participe aux différentes réunions de coordination, aux différentes réunions d'évaluation pour ce qui est de la session cours débat et DVF au sein des établissements scolaires. Et puis, ça nous permet de voir comment, dans quel sens étendre avec l'aide de ce conseil nos différents cours, pas seulement pour les 11 établissements, mais pour les autres établissements scolaires confessionnels, pas seulement pour les catholiques, mais également dans les écoles coraniques et autres. Donc, c'est vraiment cela qui est en perspective pour ce qui est de notre programme au sein de la Cameroun.
Thank you, both ladies. I really appreciate your efforts. And we have to end it here. And it's nice to hear from you, Jermaine, at long last, because we lost you earlier. And also, Regina, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and effort. And as I said earlier, let's keep on the momentum. Let's keep on contacting each other. Let's keep on working together to have to get this whole issue going on. Let's also think about how we can learn about cultures, about faith beliefs in scriptures, as well as community level, to be able to push for the agenda. Thank you so very much. And we call it a day. Thank you. Regina, you can end the meeting and send me the recordings.